Hello everyone, if you don't know me already, I'm Tara, the Dance Doctor. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be addressing body image and dancing and kind of being really self-critical, comparing ourselves to other dancers, and offering some tools on how to have a more positive outlook about your own dancing and about your body. So let's get into it. So I want to start by just talking a little bit about my own journey with body image as a dancer. Since I was very young, I started dancing when I was 3 years old, and so when we start in a studio, when we're that young, we're pretty much in front of a mirror for our entire lives. And as dancers, we use the mirror to compare ourselves to our teacher, to be able to see our teacher and ourselves, and also compare ourselves to other dancers, make sure that we're not going to run into anybody, be kind of more aware of our bodies and the space and how everything looks. And I feel like the mirror is a very important tool. Of course, as a teacher, I use it very frequently, but it can also turn into a crutch, and it can also start to become our enemy. And so, as I got older, I went through puberty much earlier than my peers, and so my body started to develop earlier, and I started to notice the differences between me and the other girls, and I was always a bit curvier than the rest of my dancing peers. And I also have struggled with being an emotional eater for my entire life. And so because of all of these things, I started to really get into vigorous exercise and use that to punish myself for eating. And I was eating to cope with the fact that I looked different than the other girls. And so it turned into this vicious cycle where I was very focused on the superficial aspect of my body and not so much the internal aspect of what my body was doing for me, and how I could actually use my dancing to help myself feel better about these different things that were getting me down. And I just felt, miserable and very, very down on myself, even though I was always kind of prospering and growing in my dancing. I never really felt fulfilled because all I really wanted was to have a certain body type that I didn't have. And because of that, I also didn't like the way that my dancing looked. When I would watch videos of myself, I felt like because I didn't have that certain body type, that my dancing didn't look as good. As I've said in my moving to Mexico video, I did quit dancing for a few years, and in those few years, I had a baby. And I feel like after having had my daughter, there was a huge shift in the way that I saw my body. My body changed a lot when I was pregnant. I gained 60 pounds, I think, 65 pounds maybe. I got a little bit of extra skin and stretch marks on my belly, and I breastfed for over 2 years, and so that also changed my anatomy. And having a child and breastfeeding a child, like I said, shifted my mentality about my body because it made me see, and this isn't the only way that you can see that, because many women will choose not to have children, and that is completely fine. That's their choice, and I actually didn't think it was part of my destiny either. But what it did was it shifted the way that I see my body, because it gave my body a higher purpose than just looking a certain way. For, as simple as it sounds, for my entire life up to that point, I saw my body mostly as an object that was to be fine-tuned, to look a certain way and to move a certain way. And then I had this experience in which my body had this larger function that really had nothing to do with how it looked, but more how I nurtured it, and through nurturing my body, I nurtured my daughter. And so this idea of my body having a purpose other than being attractive or looking a certain way really changed the way that I saw myself. And even a couple years after I had my daughter, I still wasn't dancing, but I was in this journey of kind of just seeing everything in a different light as it pertained to my body. Then when I came back to dancing, after having had that revelation, not only did dancing feel so different, because I felt like I had this fire ignited inside of me, that now my body was there to be powerful and to be useful and to be nurtured instead of to be punished and criticized. My dancing completely changed. I felt so much more open and expressive than I had in the past, after having gone through this transformation that at the time I don't think I was really even conscious of. So I'm telling you all of this, to let you know that maybe I'm somebody that you compare yourself to or that you admire, and just to let you know that I struggle with these things that all other dancers I think struggle with, whether they admit it or not. And also to lead you into, like I said in the beginning of this video, some tools to help you shift the way that you think about your body and the way you think about your dancing. So the first important thing that I want to talk about is how we use the mirror. I talked about this in the beginning of the video. We must be conscious of how we use the mirror. Just like we learn how to do different dance techniques, we also need to be cognitive of how we are learning and what narrative is kind of playing in our heads as we're learning, and making sure that we're focusing on the correct things. We use the mirror as a way to observe ourselves, and sometimes as a way to critique ourselves, but we need to set a line, draw a line in the sand of what kind of critique we're going after. We're always trying to improve our dancing, and we'll use the mirror to improve it and maybe notice things that we could do better or things we don't like that we want to change. But that's as far as we want to go. When you start using the mirror to look at other people and say that they're better than you, or to look at parts of your body that you don't like, that's when it starts to have an extremely negative impact. And in my experience, that kind of thinking actually creates a physical block in which you won't be able to actually receive information in your body and improve your dancing once you start down that kind of negative spiral of thinking. So just be really conscious about how you're using the mirror and notice your thoughts. And when you start thinking about things that don't really pertain to improving your dancing, kind of try and bring it back to, okay, what was my initial goal here? Oh, okay, I was thinking about my arms, and so now I'm not gonna start talking about how ugly my hands are. I'm going to just focus on moving my arms in the way that we were working on in my class, just as an example. But there's a million other things. But to always kind of bring it back to, what are you focusing on in your dancing, on improving, because inevitably, getting better in your dancing is going to give you this feeling of purpose that is going to help you celebrate your body. Another strategy that I like to use is one that I actually heard many years ago, and I think it was Amy Poehler that said it, but I'm not sure. And she was actually just talking about body image as it pertains to just every person. But I like to apply it to dancing, and that strategy is to name 3 things that you love about your dancing. And so it could be, maybe you really need to think about it. Maybe you need to watch videos of yourself and pick things out. And instead of, I know we all watch our videos and we're immediately drawn to the things that we don't like. But what I want to challenge you to do is actually, watch yourself dancing, and instead of using your critical eye that you might use in your classes, I want you to use your loving eye and find 3 things that you love about your dancing. And I want you to focus on those 3 things. So if you are in your class or you're out dancing, I want you to use this as an exercise. If you're dancing through an entire song with your teacher or with another dancer or by yourself, I want you to emphasize those 3 things that you really love about your dancing, and you'll be surprised that after you really take that time to notice those 3 things that you love, more things are gonna pop up. And you'll notice that, hey, there are a lot of things that I can do. I'm very able. Even if you are just starting out in your dancing journey, when you're first starting out, the learning curve is so steep because you're going from nothing to really knowing quite a bit in a short period of time. And so there's a lot to be celebrated in that journey, even if you're just starting out. And if you're an advanced dancer, the things that you're going to be celebrating might be more nuanced, but that's beautiful as well, because those are things that, just a regular person wouldn't even know to look for. And so there's always going to be something to celebrate about your dancing, and using this technique has really helped me feel good in my body and in my dancing, and I know that it is helpful for my students, and it will be helpful for you as well. So the last technique that I want to give you to start to have a more positive outlook about your body and your dancing, it pertains to this tendency that dancers have to compare themselves to other dancers. And there's a few different things I want to say about this. The first one is Instagram is a blessing and a curse, because I draw so much inspiration from other dancers that I follow on Instagram, but depending on the day, I could also ruin my entire day seeing one video of somebody that I think is better than me, and then just thinking, well, why do I even do this? I'm not good enough, I'm not as good as that person, whatever the crazy narrative is that I have in my head, it can really get me down. And so a technique that I started to use that has really helped me combat that kind of downward spiral is, again, celebrating other dancers as much as I'm attempting to celebrate myself. So, if I see a woman and I'm either comparing my body to hers or my dancing to hers or both, instead of starting to criticize myself because she's beautiful and wonderful, I am going to celebrate and verbalize the fact that I think that she's great. I'm going to comment on her video, or I'm going to tell somebody about it, or show some people this video. And just that action of celebration and of you putting it into the universe and verbalizing the fact that I think that this woman is wonderful actually makes me feel good about myself instead of feeling self-critical. So focusing on the fact that that person is great and not the fact that I feel like I'm not as great as that person really makes me see, we're actually all great. We're all different. Everybody has different strengths. Like I said, I think that this idea of celebrating everybody, including yourself, is a really powerful way to look at things in a positive light and really feel better about yourself, as well as all the other dancers that you come into contact with. I have two more thoughts that I want to leave you with, that aren't necessarily techniques, but maybe they can be like mantras that you use to help you feel more positively about your body and about your dancing body. The first one is, I'm not sure exactly what the expression is, but I've seen a lot on social media about like women wearing bikinis and how like we have this idea of what a bikini body is, and then women responding to that by saying, I have a bikini and I have a body, so therefore I have a bikini body, or I'm at the beach and I have a body, so I have a beach body. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I feel that way about dancing. If you dance and you have a body, you have a dancing body. Dancing bodies don't look one way. I have seen every type of body dancing, and it is all beautiful and it's all good. And it brings me to my next point, which is I saw an image last night on Instagram that said, if I asked you to name the things that you love, how long would it take you to name yourself? And that doesn't necessarily relate exactly to dancing, but for me it does, because I feel that at its core, dancing is an expression of self-love, because you're doing something that feels good to your body. You're expressing yourself to music. You know, if you put on, I always say this, when you put on music for a one-year-old, like my one-year-old niece was visiting this last weekend, and I put music on for her, and she started to move. It's an instinct, and it's an expression of love and joy. And so I think it's very important to keep that in mind, because it can so easily get lost in self-criticism, comparing yourself to other dancers, and it can turn this beautiful experience into something very negative that makes you feel badly about yourself. So I think it's important to keep in mind that if you have a body and you're dancing, you have a dancing body, and that dancing is an expression of self-love. And so no matter what we're doing to try to improve our dancing and get better and, you know, be a better follower and learn new moves, that's all fine. And healthy criticism is good, but to keep in mind what our objective is, which is to express joy and express self-love. So I hope that this video reaches people that needed to hear this, and that these techniques were helpful. And you know, if you have your own techniques that you use to help you with self-love and help you love your dancing, I'd love to hear about them. Leave me a comment below. And that's basically all I have to say about it. I love you guys, and I hope that, like I said, I hope that this video finds the people that really need it, because I wish that I had somebody tell me these things as a young dancer, but I'm just happy that I have a platform in which I can share them with other people who are dancers who may need this information. So if you have a subject that you'd like me to address in my next questions answered video, please feel free to leave me a comment below. And until next time, keep dancing.